ARRRRRRG, like and subscribe, and be sure to set sail for the Sea of Thieves. Welcome back, guys. If you couldn't tell already by that ridiculous intro, today we're talking about Sea of Thieves, a game released by Rare and Microsoft Studios back in 2018, and a game that I've really enjoyed playing on and off for the past several years. Thanks to a friend of mine, I was a part of the Xbox Insider program when I was a teenager, and so as a perk of being an Xbox Insider for so many years, back in 2018, before Sea of Thieves even launched, I was a part of the closed beta. For people who know me personally, they'll know that there are three things that I love most in life. Magic, like we're talking wizards, the Arthurian legends of Camelot and Merlin, and all that kind of jazz. Pirates. Back in 2018, when little old me found out that there was a game about pirates coming to Xbox that wasn't like Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, or anything like that, because Black Flag was one of the first games I had on my Xbox, I was really excited. For those of you who do not know, Sea of Thieves is technically it's an MMO, but it's not necessarily in the same MMO atmosphere as a lot of it. There are not thousands of people on each server. Now there's just a handful of people on each server, but there are loads of different servers. Granted, similar to a lot of MMOs, there are cosmetics that you can buy, but unlike a lot of that, pretty much everything that you can get in Sea of Thieves is just aesthetic. You can't, buy better cannons. Nah, everyone's cannons are the same. It's just down to what they look like and then what cannonballs you load in. You see, that's another nice thing about Sea of Thieves is that as the updates have come and gone, Sea of Thieves has introduced a little bit of piratey magic of its own into the game, because throughout the game you can find cursed cannonballs that when launched at your opponent's ships will do different things, such as breaking loads of holes in their ship or destroying all their boards so they can't repair holes, making everyone aboard the ship dance, and just things like that where you can really screw up a well-balanced crew at times if they're not paying attention. So, with that initial introduction to Sea of Thieves out of the way, what kind of accessibility features does Sea of Thieves have? Well, right off the bat, I noticed that there were some settings to swap button controls that would normally require you to hold the button into just simply pressing the button, which that's definitely nice. In terms of other things, though, I cannot really speak on that because one thing about Sea of Thieves is that it is cross-platform, so you could play it on PC or on Xbox. So as a result, I only have experience playing on Xbox. I only have experience playing with a standard Xbox controller. I've never needed to make adjustments to key bindings, none of that. So I don't know how user-friendly all that stuff is. But anyways, what is Sea of Thieves all about with the accessibility features out of the way? Sea of Thieves sees you and up to 3 other friends running a pirate ship together, completing voyages, which are the game's basic quests for you to earn renown and gold so you can buy new cosmetic items. One of my personal goals while playing Sea of Thieves has always been to acquire all of the Admiral set cosmetics. There are certain things about the Admiral set that I just like, but initially there were only a handful of voyages that you could do. There were voyages for the Gold Hoarders, which involved digging up buried treasure. There were voyages from the Order of Shadows, which involved killing pirate skeletons and bringing back their skulls. Then there were voyages for the Merchants Alliance, which involved fulfilling requests for gathering animals, crates of supplies, and other things like that, and delivering them to X, Y, or Z location. As time has gone on, they've introduced other things such as Kraken and Megalodon boss fights. They've introduced Tall Tales, where you can get rewards for going on these grand adventures. Last year, or actually the year prior, I think it was, at some point, they had done a crossover between Sea of Thieves and the Pirates of the Caribbean. So you got to help out Jack Sparrow and fight Davy Jones. And it was a really fun time. Now, that's not all that you can do in Sea of Thieves. Like, you can still earn renown and gold without going on voyages or tall tales, because, well, it's an MMO in a sense, so you can go over to another player, or attack their ship, steal their loot, and attempt to hightail it to an outpost, which is the game's semi-safe zone, which is the game's main hubs where you take all your resources, and you can attempt to cash in on their loot. There are also skeleton fortresses and other world events that you can take advantage of to try to get treasures and loots. But ultimately, that is what Sea of Thieves is all about. It's all about sailing the open oceans with your buddies and seeing what adventure awaits for you beyond the horizon. But that's also part of where Sea of Thieves, at least for me, falls short a little. Because, for context, there are 3 different boats you can use in Sea of Thieves. There's the sloop, the brigadier, and the galleon. Each one has a recommended crew size. The sloop can have a crew from 1 to 2. The brigadier, technically you can pilot it with 1, but it's recommended to have from 2 to 3. And the galleon, technically you could pilot it with 1, but that would be extremely hard because it's recommended for 3 to 4. Back when the beta was still kicking about, initially I solo slooped it, as I call it. But then, as time went on, I was getting bored of that because of how little there was to do in the game. So I did open crews, which are where you and random people come together and you sail around to do voyages, etc. But ultimately, I found that it was both frustrating and also getting rather boring doing open crews. And I've tried doing like closed crews in the past where me and some friends would get together and we would play Sea of Thieves together. But ultimately there would just be disagreements about what we would do. I'm in it for the treasure hunting, the NPC bounty hunting, and the other voyages, but all my friends that would be interested in playing Sea of Thieves would be interested in the combat and the PvP side of things, and honestly that's not for me with this game. Heck, some of my favorite moments in Sea of Thieves have been non-violent encounters with players. I remember one moment back in the closed beta where me and a bunch of other people on an open crew were just sailing around doing voyages. And initially we were freaking out because we saw this other ship off in the distance. And back in the day, they did not have this megaphone option. So initially we were freaking out. We were like, okay, let's avoid that island, maybe abandon this voyage, maybe go do something else. But another member of my crew was like, no, let's go for it. And we reluctantly agreed. We went to the island. We tried to solve our voyage, which we did do. And but then we noticed that, hey, the other guys aren't on this island. What's going on? So we decided to take a peek on their ship. They were just chilling out playing music. We were all being friendly, hanging out, drinking grog, and playing music together. It wasn't until we got bored of it and went to go cash in our loot, which thankfully those guys also gave us some loot that they had. When we communicated with them, we found out, they were logging off for the night, but they were waiting for people to come by so they could give their loot away because they didn't necessarily want to get all the way back to the outpost because it would be a hassle. So we thanked them, we went on our way, and the crew went our separate ways. But since then, from my understanding, for the most part, from my understanding, the community has gone back and forth between toxicity in regards to how different pirates treat each other to, oh yeah, this is all chill, but in that regard, like, I wish that there was more options for, like, oh yeah, I want, like, say, a PvE server where, like, even though the developers and creators of Sea of Thieves have said that they would never add this option because it would go against the spirit of the game, I do wish that we had, like, a PvE option where players could not attack each other, and, like, we could come together to fight krakens, do voyages, do tall tales, help each other out. And then there could be the PvP servers where all that stuff is still possible, but there's also still that risk of players attacking each other. I hope you all have enjoyed. I have enjoyed talking about Sea of Thieves, and to my future brother-in-law, this one's for you, bud. See you guys next week when we talk about Tears of the Kingdom. That's right. The video that I teased all the way back with the Breath of the Wild video. It's finally coming, boys. It's finally coming.